Most of the time, a new game in a thriving genre has a unique idea that distinguishes it and gives it a reason to exist, but not Sniper Ghost Warrior 3. If you've played games like Far Cry and Sniper Elite, it has no surprises in store. Despite a lack of innovation, it still executes its open-world stealth combat well enough that it ends up being a fun game that doesn't overstay its welcome. Or it would be, if not for numerous graphical and technical problems. Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 scatters a variety of adventures over several regions full of things to do. In one, I needed to find and infiltrate a secret lab. In another, I was tasked with rescuing some engineers. No two missions felt exactly the same, which kept it from getting repetitive. What kept me coming back was the basic action. There is something very cool about lining up a shot, making small adjustments for wind and elevation, slowing time by holding your breath, and pulling the trigger. A slow-motion bullet cam shot is the finale to most sequences of this type. These were repetitive, but never got overly annoying. Even when I had to go loud, the assault weapons felt appropriately powerful, and gunfights are tense because you can't take a lot of hits. While gunplay isn't as slick or exact as more action-focused first-person shooters, the assault-style action was always satisfying. Beyond the combat, the other elements are adequately playable. Even something as tricky as first-person platforming, which can be a nightmare when done poorly, was fine, with one sizable exception. 3 times during my campaign, I fell into inescapable parts of the landscape, forcing me to reload. And that's an especially harsh penalty because load times can be over 4 minutes, especially when you open up a new region. It also straight up froze on me 3 times. In general, sneaking around is easy enough with patience. I never felt that staying hidden was ever out of my control, or random. That said, elements like hiding spots and noise distractions went largely unused because they usually weren't necessary. In fact, a lot of stuff in Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 is underutilized. For instance, a set of skills appropriately named Sniper, Ghost, and Warrior unlock based on your gameplay style. This is a neat idea, but with only 9 skills in each area, it feels shallow. Despite a decent array of weapons, I never needed much more than the starting sniper and assault rifle. There's a basic modification system, allowing you to swap scopes, magazines, attachments, and camo, and that got me through just fine. Graphically, it looks underwhelming at times, specifically when looking at cartoonish character models and textures. I also experienced some minor frame rate drops, usually when jumping into a scoped view. And while the draw distance is respectable, the detail of the surrounding areas isn't remarkable. On the other hand, the few weather effects and dynamic lighting looked good enough to help create a believable environment. The campaign story is also fairly predictable and unremarkable, and full of standard action tropes. Thankfully, there aren't many cutscenes, which again keeps the focus on the most enjoyable part, completing the missions. As enjoyable as these missions can be, they'll be enjoyed alone for the time being. As of release, there is no multiplayer of any kind, despite being a previously advertised feature. While there is a lot to collect and do, the lack of multiplayer definitely hurts its long-term replayability. Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 is by no means a great game, though its value is raised by short and varied missions, fun action elements, and an ability to make me feel like a legit action hero. Regardless of how much it borrows from other games, I can't deny that I had a good time blowing through missions and enemy troops. However, the poor graphics and technical issues like long loading times and crashes occasionally ruin the fun. And without the promised multiplayer, there's not a lot of reason to go back.